yet. He might have had a technical foul there just as his first half was expiring.
Welcome back to the Buzzer Update. I'm back with a brand new, thrilling video just for you. I hope everyone is doing fantastic and enjoying their day. The video from today is jam-packed with vital information and intriguing updates. So be sure to stick with me all the way through. You won't want to overlook anything. Let's get straight into today's video without wasting any more time. Alright, let's go on. Caitlin Clark had every right to be upset after being fined $1,000 for her sixth technical penalty. Instead, she made a decision that stunned everyone. On Friday night, Indianapolis seemed like a different place. It's the kind of evening when you stop browsing, stop talking, and simply watch. Caitlin Clark was doing something that very few people in basketball history had ever done on a floor. Everyone in the basketball world was still taking in what they had just witnessed by the time the final buzzer sounded. 10 assists, 2 blocks for steals, and 45 points. In all of professional basketball, both men's and women's, only 4 players have ever recorded a stat line as unusual and historically absurd as this one. She finished it in less than 30 minutes, despite the fact that she was still playing under a minute constraint. Her own coaching staff had not yet been elevated. You are grateful for this information. Think about subscribing to the channel and liking this video. Unbelievably, over 85% of visitors have not yet subscribed to. Even though it only takes a second and is free, it means the world to us. Have you already subscribed? Fantastic. I sincerely appreciate your help. Let's return to the video now. Michael Jordan was being compared by analysts. Someone was mentioning Luka Doncic. Social media was at a loss for words to describe what had just happened. Caitlin Clark's life revolved on basketball for one night. What she accomplished on the floor, what it meant for the record books, and what it revealed about the future of her career. Then, 90 seconds later, Saturday showed up. It took that long for the topic to flip around. John Cale Jones of Liberty Center set up a hard screen that Clark ran into. 90 seconds into Indiana's next game versus the New York Liberty. She fell to the ground too. She looked for the foul call. It never came to pass. Before the game even started, she got up, spoke to the nearest official, and was issued a technical foul right away. Her sixth of the season had already cost her $1,000. After 2 technical fouls, the player who had recently joined one of the rarest teams in basketball history was suddenly facing an automatic 1-game ban. The celebrations from the night before continued. The slow-motion highlight films were kept playing on each time frame. The league discovered its most watched athlete before she had even settled into her second game of the weekend. How is it possible for a sport to go from establishing history on a Friday to punishing the same person who accomplished it less than a day later? That question landed hard, not softly. The Fever won the game. With 33 points from Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana easily overcame a Liberty team that had defeated them previously in the season, 108-88. It was by all accounts a strong road win with playoff implications for a team with 15 wins and 10 defeats, fighting for a position in a conference that had grown more competitive every week. The victory, though, hardly made the press. What registered was the technical. What was registered was the fine. What registered was the math. There are 2 more before the mandatory night off. I'm down 6. Additionally, fans spent the following night counting fouls like a punishment clock after celebrating one of the greatest individual performances in women's basketball history the night before. Whiplash was not the result of an accident. It wasn't a bad coincidence or bad timing for many who had been keeping a close eye on things throughout the season. One controversial whistle at a time. It was the latest stage of something that had been evolving for some months. In actuality, this story starts in June. To comprehend why Saturday appeared to be the most recent explosion in a much longer confrontation against the Phoenix Mercury, you must go back there. In a game that many fans and experts instantly judged to be borderline at best, Clark committed a technical foul. Referees ignore the intensity of a physical moment, swallowing it and moving on. The majority of players forget this kind of call. Music, but it did not disappear. Instead of rescinding it, as it had done for other players earlier in the season, the Wnba upheld it after analyzing. It's not because a single technical foul is catastrophic, but rather because it revealed how Clark's illness was being treated in contrast to everyone else on the floor. The fire was started by that one decision. Fans immediately took note. Screenshots of the decision started to go viral within hours. On social media timelines, side-by-side comparisons are common. Players who act more roughly or in a similar manner on the court. Despite having comparable levels of frustration and having said or done far more in the heat of the moment, none of the players were subject to the same amount of scrutiny or disciplinary actions. Why does a call that is rescinded for one player apply to another within the same season? Every technical foul that followed was examined through the lens of that persistent question. By the time of the sixth technical in July, fans had not responded to any bad calls. They were reacting to a file that they had been working on since the spring. Screenshot by screenshot, box score by box score. Every disputed whistle was gathered, scrutinized, and contrasted with a pattern they were increasingly confident the league was either unable to identify or was unwilling to address. The June call caused Clark more harm than just a fine. The league lost the benefit of the doubt due to a fan base that had already been closely observing and was now doing so with a magnifying glass. It's harder to dismiss this as fan displeasure or online gossip when no one else has been prepared to publicly address it. Stephanie White is the head coach at Indiana. There is no fan account for her. She is not an unreliable social media pundit. She must carefully oversee her team as a professional coach and talk about officiating in a way that doesn't lead to more problems with the league administration. She told reporters that discussions about using those fouls against her own player more strategically are necessary to address the issue, even after an earlier technical. Look closely at that. Speaking on the record, a head coach admitted that Clark's relationship with Wnba officiating has developed into something the organization needs to actively manage, something they are strategically planning around rather than hoping it goes away or dismissing it as an overreaction from the internet. When a team's coaching staff chooses their words so carefully when discussing a pattern this clear in public, you can see how serious the issue has gotten within the corporation itself. The national media has also been keeping an eye on things. Pundits from well-known sports outlets have used phrases like political tug-of-war to characterize the dynamics surrounding Clark's treatment. She was praised as the league's biggest draw one week. She was obviously more disciplined than her co-workers the next time. Once that framing moves from WNBA-specific media to more general sports conversation, the league loses control of the narrative. The conversation is self-sufficient. Uniformity and fairness are now being questioned by casual fans who had never given technical foul procedures a second thought due to the story's development. That kind of pressure is not the same as a strongly expressed tweet from a fan base. That is the league's reputation being shaped in real time by a conversation that it cannot ignore and did not start. See where Clark stands in the technical foul standings for the league. And it gets even harder to decipher the picture. She now shares second place in the league with Kalia Copper, only surpassed by Angel Ree. These three-player games don't look exactly alike. Ree is a powerful presence on the inside who plays with an edge and draws aggressive play. Copper is an aggressive two-way guard who never gives up on the basket. As a perimeter playmaker, Clark prioritizes technical foul, shooting, and space over the kind of emotionally charged, contact-heavy play that frequently results in a large amount of technical fouls. So why are three such desperate players in the same disciplinary group by the middle of the season? Explaining the shared number as a coincidence is harder than it first appears. It creates questions, and fans fill the hole with their own conclusions when those questions aren't well addressed. Judgments that are not in favor of the league office. The fan community responded to that silence by creating something remarkably organized for something that had no formal foundation at all. For every technical foul, there is now an instantaneous wave of real-time discussion and documentation. Faprioreticiously reload the box scores mid-aim to see whether Clark has committed a foul that puts her closer to the threshold. Screen number heads that offer timestamps and video for every call that is contested. Posts that contrast Clark's technical foul history with that of players whose actions are objectively worse or equivalent. This isn't intermittent venting. This fan base has effectively become a department dedicated to fact-checking. They are judgments, well-organized, favorable, and quite reluctant to leave a call unanswered. Because so many people watch league games, what does it mean for a league office to have a public record of every decision it makes? That kind of ongoing, documented attention is a form of pressure in and of itself, even in the absence of a formal campaign, petition, or spokesman. It simply keeps existing and growing each time a new chapter is added. There is also a financial component to all of this, which should be examined more thoroughly than is typically the case. The WNBA quietly restructured its outstanding system before the start of the season. Under the new system, technical fouls 4 through 7 each result in a $1,000 penalty, a substantial increase from the $200 starting point of previous seasons. Even if that change was implemented consistently, it really lands differently depending on who is screwing the fouls. For a player like Clark, who is coming closer to the barrier than almost everyone else in the league, the financial cost of displeasure has been increasing rapidly and dramatically. For every technical foul, a professional athlete might be able to pay $1,000. But the main issue isn't the dollar amount. The structure reveals the league's priorities. When the cost of player annoyance rises while the calls that produce it stay the same, the player bears full responsibility. It basically says that the answer is to make responding to inconsistency more expensive. This strategy has drawn attention from supporters who believe that the officiating problem is the underlying cause rather than the result of Clark's activities. This is not a personal grievance that Clark has voiced. She has been especially careful about that, continuously steering the conversation toward a structural argument and away from particular calls. Throughout the season, she has publicly called for the league to switch from its current part-time officiating system to full-time referees. It's a big difference. She's not asking for preferential treatment. She is not asking the league to overturn some decisions that have been made in her favor. She contends that it is primarily a staffing and infrastructure issue, and that improving officiating inconsistencies will benefit everyone on the floor, not just herself. That argument, which would not result from simple annoyance, lends credibility to her viewpoint. The entire conversation shifts from Clark's opinion that she gets too many technical penalties to her opinion that the league's officiating system is well organized and overhauled. These two issues of disagreement are very different. In addition, it is harder for the league office to turn down the second one without coming out as unwilling to deal with an issue that can be fixed. When the drama is eliminated, what would happen if the 8th technical appeared? The mechanics are straightforward. When Clark receives her 9th technical penalty of the regular season, the WNBA immediately suspends her for 1 game. A $1,500 fine, a forced night on the bench, no hearing, and no appeal that may change the ruling. For most players on most teams in most seasons, that would be a pain. For the Fever right now, it would be far more dangerous. Indiana, with 15 wins and 10 losses, is competing in the postseason in a league that has grown increasingly competitive over the course of the season. Clark averages roughly 8 assists, for fouls, and nearly 21 points each night. She is more than just Indiana's best player. The Fever's offensive strategy revolves around her. The player whose ability to create open looks for her teammates drastically impacts the defensive strategy, and the player whose shooting range alone requires adjustments that no other team member can make in the same way. The Fever won't just lose if you remove her from the game. They are introducing an entirely new offense with only 48 hours notice during a period when every game has playoff implications. How can a club instantly rewire its whole offensive identity without months of practice and preparation focused on a new strategy? Honestly, it doesn't, nor cheap towards neatness. But a suspension wouldn't simply hurt Indiana's one-loss record. Every game that the league has been trying to develop for years has benefited from Clark's contributions this season. Increasing attendance, television coverage, and a level of broad national interest that women's basketball has historically favored to sustain itself on a regular basis. Every arena she visits is completely booked. Broadcasters see her appearances as reliable sources of viewership. Her presence has boosted sports growth in ways that go far beyond what could have been accomplished with a single marketing push, as the league has openly acknowledged. There are additional expenses associated with a player's suspension for more than just one night. It loses the league one of its most reliable draws at a time when casual fans are more interested in women's basketball than ever. Is the WNBA really prepared for what a suspended night looks like in terms of the viewership it loses alongside her? That is no longer speculative. The solution to this live inquiry is only 2 technical faults away. Fans now see each technical foul as a distinct, standalone drama. In order to determine whether Clark has committed a foul that advances the counter, box scores are updated in real time during Fever games. witnessing her interactions with referees under a level of forensic examination that is unusual even in a postseason matchup. Every time she addresses a referee's call, there's a little silence on social media before fans find out if it made a difference. That kind of extended, fine-grained focus wears out everyone involved, even Clark. She's a competitor, because that's what elite competitive basketball demands. She plays with passion and enthusiasm. The psychological burden of controlling that intensity is something that few athletes in any sport have had to cope with. There is a suspension clock running in the backdrop in addition to the game being on the line. How many players in any professional league are supposed to regulate their emotion offense with such caution when there is so much text on every whistle? There aren't many responses. There is also a commonality among persons who are. They have the biggest audiences, the most renowned names, and the most institutional weight. This brings Clark back into the conversation right away. None of this should be used as an excuse for valid technical fouls. There is no denying that the league finds the conversation more uncomfortable and direct, that the margin for mistake has become dangerously small at this specific moment. She has never given a greater performance. For everyone in her close neighborhood, including teammates, coaches, broadcasters, and the league itself, the stakes are higher than ever. Is it reasonable to expect any athlete, much less the most closely watched one in the sport, to play with such little time between her best season and a mandatory night off? When you take into account that suspension Clark has already gone through to get to this point in the season, the situation seems much more dire. Her coaching staff had to set a minutes restriction at the start of the season due to injury concerns, and it has been in place since her freshman season. The physical contact inquiries each night have been discussed and documented, a level of engagement that has led to a distinct conversation about the officials' consistent application of the law in connection with her defense. A suspension threshold that is 2 technical fouls away, a fine structure that punishes her more harshly with each call, and a league office that has not publicly addressed the structural problems she keeps bringing up are all additional factors. It's reaching what should be one of the happiest moments of her career, but one player at a time is under tremendous strain. After an incredible 45-10 assist performance at the start of the week, it soon became a countdown to a fine and suspension. There isn't even a slight distinction between those two. This kind of paradox is what makes a story seem larger than any one of its individual moments. During a playoff push, no team should have to deal with this level of split focus. The Fever fan base claims that watching a counter and waiting to see if this is the whistle that makes all the difference is a part of every game. Just like watching basketball at the moment. Every newscast from Indiana has that undercurrent. There is a tension that didn't exist a season ago, and it only exists because those who have the authority to offer a definitive solution have let the issue get worse. This conundrum includes the July 18th fee, the June call that was never overturned, the structural request for full-time referees, the suspension calculations, the fan documentation, and the head coach's circumspect public comments about handling an issue that shouldn't exist. It all boils down to one central query. Does the WNBA plan to react to Caitlin Clark by changing the fine structure concealed in a league memo rather than by issuing a statement? Give her a genuine answer. Respond to her persistent and public assertions that the officiating inconsistency is a systemic problem with a structural fix in a way that shows the league has taken notice of her concerns and is making substantial progress. Since silence and fines have been the current strategy, they start to resemble a policy since spring if they are applied frequently enough. The medical neighborhood, which started with WNBA coverage, has infiltrated mainstream sports discourse and is not abating. Fans have been monitoring every whistle, and they won't stop. Additionally, Clark hasn't indicated that she will soften her position or give up on the public argument she has been making this season. That is pressure that is simultaneously coming from the neighborhood, which, fans, commentator coverage, players. The league office has yet to devise a solution that won't make the problem worse or more noticeable. The countdown starts at 2. The conversation moves from possible consequences to actual happenings after 2 more technical mistakes. After 2 more whistles, the league's most watched player will sit on the bench for a game that, rather than being a standard disciplinary penalty, will be described as the culmination of a story that has been unfolding since June. Indiana's remaining games are all defense for the postseason. Every possession matters, And the premise of every single one of those games was that Clark would be on the floor directing an offense that only works when she is in the thick of it. There is already pressure. Whether or not the 8th technical appearance appears in the next 2 weeks, the question it raises is already defended in the room. In the middle of a playoff race, a league that has openly acknowledged one player for altering the sport's commercial and cultural trajectory over the last 2 seasons is now just 2 whistles away from benching that same player. Additionally, the audience is not confused by what that could mean. They're just waiting to see if the league is. The fan base has set the record. The media has created the narrative. Clark has made her argument. At this point, the only issue that remains is whether the WNBA is actually paying attention or if it will just keep paying fines in the hopes that the outcry will ultimately go away. It won't. If you think the WNBA should give Clark a sincere reaction to this, please let us know in the comments. Additionally, make sure to subscribe if you felt this analysis was interesting because this story is far from